Hi everyone, it's Misty here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Fat Girl Fast. Grab some tea, I can get a coffee, settle down. This one's gonna be, by the way, I'm in Texas. I'm doing okay. We haven't lost electricity. We haven't lost power. We've kept our water. Everything here is fine. I know that's not true of everyone in Texas, so my heart goes out to you. I've talked with a couple of people who are followers who live in Texas who are struggling, and I'm just, it's infuriating, it's sickening. There's nothing I can say or do that will help you today, but I hope that we can make changes so 4 to 6 inches of snow doesn't cause this issue going forward. A long one. Before we get started, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm none of those things. So anything I talk about in this video is not me giving you advice on how to handle your health. You really need to seek out your doctor or a health professional that you work with. If you're someone who's interested in starting fasting, this is not to teach you how to fast. There's nothing I say is like, oh, here, do this, and this is how you're going to be healthy and fast. I'm sharing my journey, sharing what worked for me, answering some of the questions that you guys have had for me, and talking about what I'm going to do going forward. So just make sure that if you're someone who is considering fasting, that you talk with your doctor, because there are some people who shouldn't fast. And I will mention that, but again, not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. I'm just some fat girl on the internet trying to figure things out. So enough jibber jabbering with the introduction. Let's get started. Like I said, this will probably be a long one. I'm going to share the who, when, what, where, how, and to what extent about fasting. So if you're new here, hello, my name is Misty. As I mentioned, I am a type 2 diabetic. I have been for 15 years. My anniversary is in April. It's an anniversary I hope to skip this year. I don't think it will happen, but hopefully this will be the last year that I will say that I'm a type 2 diabetic. I also have myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis is a neuromuscular junction disorder that causes extreme weakness. So that's why you don't see me exercising or doing a whole lot of moving. I basically can't. I'm not completely immobile. I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't happen, but I do struggle with mobility issues. I've also had a back surgery, and I deal with what's called OPLL and rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm not a healthy person, okay? So let this be like this. My results are going to be different than what your results may be. So I just wanted to give that out there. You know, this is who I am. This is what I deal with. And that's why you may see different results than I do. So let's start with what? What am I even talking about? What do I mean when I say I'm fasting? So there are different types of fasts. So I have a friend that every Lent, she fasts from Facebook. You can give up social media as a fast. You can stop eating as a fast. You can give up carbs as a fast. Like, you can give up food completely as a fast. You can do what's called intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is basically where you eat in a window. So a lot of people do 16 hours of not eating, 8 hours of eating. You can do 4 hours of eating. You can do 1 hour eating, which is normally also known as 1 meal a day. So that's intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is fasting within a specific time period. I am doing what's called long-term fasting, and long-term fasting is just what it sounds like. It's where you're fasting for longer periods of time. Most people do 72 hours. Some people bump it up to 5 days. I started my very first fast was like 113 hours. I've done like 2 5-day fasts. I did 2 3-day fasts. I did a 7-day, a 15-day, and I just did a 21-day fast back in January. And when I say fast, I mean for me, I'm doing what's called a water fast, which basically means I'm drinking water with electrolyte drops, and that's it. I tried having flavored water like LaCroix or just carbonated water with some flavoring in it. Absolutely not. It causes an insulin response. And the goal of water fasting for me is for my body not to have an insulin response. And we'll talk about that more later. But I basically drink water, have my electrolyte drops, and that's it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm doing a water fast. There is not a whole lot of information, but there are a couple of people that I have come upon who do have a wealth of information. And one of those is Dr. Mindy Pelz. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I will have her channel linked down below. She has such a plethora of videos, of, you know, how-tos. I think she has a Facebook group where they fast 1 week a month, and she documents that. So I will definitely link her down below, along with a couple other people, Dr. Eckberg, I completely just blanked, Dr. Barry, some other people known in the keto community. I will have all of them linked in the description box down below. But as I mentioned, I'm not here to teach you how to fast. I'm just sharing with you how I managed to fast. So that's the what. I'm doing a water fast. So the next question is who? Who should fast? If you are someone who deals with hypoglycemia, if you're type 1 diabetic, if you have other issues with blood pressure or any other things, fasting may not be something that you can physically do. It's not for everybody, and especially long-term fasting isn't for everybody. So I encourage you to reach out to your doctor. If you're someone like me who has 7 or 8 specialists, make sure you touch base with at least half of them to say, on your regular PCP, and say, hey, I want to start fasting. Should I do it? What are my risks? What I should look out for? Is this something that's even doable? I've talked to my regular general practitioner. I've seen him talk to him twice. I don't remember. I've seen him once. I've seen my rheumatologist 2 times. I'll see her for a 3rd time coming up. I see my regular doctor next month. I get blood drawn every single month to check it's a CBC, which also checks my electrolytes. So I am under the care of a doctor, even though I'm not doing a doctor-driven fast or whatever you want to call it. So who can fast really depends on your own medical condition and your medical history. It's not for everybody. Long-term fasting, you may be able to do intermittent fasting, which I said is a completely different animal than that. Another type of fast is called alternative day fasting, and there are tons of video. I think Keto Rewind is a YouTuber that does that. I've seen some of her videos. She does every other day, I believe. So you eat one day, you don't eat the next day. There's some people who do rolling 48s. I always get this wrong. It's either rocking 48s or rolling 48s. But they eat for 2 days and they don't eat for 2 days. So there's a lot of different ways to fast. There's a lot of different ways to give up. Some people do water, green tea, like unsweetened tea, unsweetened coffee. Every once in a while, if I just get completely tired of water, I have my husband help me make some unsweetened iced tea. It's just black tea in the South. You guys know what I'm talking about. So I will sometimes do that, but for the most part, I just stick with water. I don't like the taste of black coffee. It's way too bitter for me. So I stick to water. Where do I fast? I just fast in my house. So if you're someone who is working, you're working outside the home, maybe you work 8, 9, 10 hours, shift work, whatever. Again, it's going to be something that you have to monitor. I am not a very active person. I'm not physically able to do a lot in my home. So I'm not someone who has to worry about fainting or those kinds of things from not having enough energy or an energy source to get me through the day. So it's from what I've seen from a couple of the doctors that I've watched, if you're going to do long-term fasting, it needs to be something where you can rest and let your body rest. So again, I'm not here to teach you how to fast. I'm not here to give you medical advice, but I will link people down below. Again, watch their videos, listen to what they have to say, talk to your doctor, and then you can see if this is something that you can do. So I was going to start my fast tomorrow, which is Friday, February the 19th. This video may go up on Friday. It's going to depend on how long it takes me to edit it and get it uploaded. I'm hoping to get it up on Thursday. But I've decided to start Monday, which is the 22nd. So my doctor's appointment is Tuesday, March 23rd. So by the time I get there, that will be what? 28 something days, since there's only 28 days in February. 28, yeah, like 28 days. Yeah, so I am going to start Monday. It'll actually be Sunday night. So after my last food and my last beverage that is not plain water is when I will start my timer. I use the Zero app. The Zero app only goes up to 7 days, but there's also an app called Life. I haven't used that. I'm not, that one you have to log in. Zero, there's no logging in. You don't have to log in. You can just use it, and if you want to save it, you can save it. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But again, it only goes to 7 days. Oh, hello, it's editing Misty with her glasses. You have to register for Zero. I'm a dodo bird. But Life gives you the option to sign in with Facebook. I don't really care to do that anymore. But Zero, you do have to, I forgot, you have to make an account, sign in, and all that good stuff. I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay. So I am starting Monday the 22nd, and the next question is, to what extent? I'm going for at least 40 days. So this will be the longest fast I've done. My last one was 21 days. I honestly could have kept going, and I think I mentioned that in my kind of results video. I really could have kept going, but I just didn't. I wasn't mentally stable enough to continue going. 21 days was a long time, and 40 days is even longer. And so the next question is, of course, why? So one of my kind of tips for you, if you're someone who wants to get into starting or who wants to start fasting, you have to figure out why you want to fast. I've had a couple of people express concern in my comments that I'm using this as basically eating disorder, and I'm using this to, binge and purge. I'm not at all. I mentioned in that video, I haven't had the urge to binge since my very first fast back in October. And my why isn't about weight loss. And I know you guys are looking at me, you're like, okay, listen, you're some fat girl on the internet. You've said it. Why isn't it about weight loss? The weight loss is going to be a side effect. You're going to lose weight. The weight may or may not stay off. We'll talk about that in a second, but you're going to lose weight. It's going to happen. Weight is naturally going to come off because you're literally not eating food. That's not why I'm doing this. My why is I'm tired of being a diabetic. Like I said, I've been at this for almost 15 years. And I was on insulin, and I am mad that I allowed myself to be on insulin. I'm mad that I did it. I'm mad that I went ahead and did it, even though I knew everything in my heart and in my intuition was saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, please don't do this, please don't do this. I did it. My goal since starting keto in March of 2017 was to get off insulin. I wanted off insulin. And I was off insulin. Unfortunately, I took mycophenolate. I've talked about this. Mycophenolate bumped me up because it causes hyperglycemia. That's why I was in an RA flare for almost all of January, because I stopped taking my Humira, which also increased insulin. I've had 2 doses of Enbrel. I haven't noticed any kind of jump in my blood sugars. But my blood sugars have been running high. And that is the reason why I want to fast. My why is because I no longer want to be a diabetic. And you can reverse type 2 diabetes with fasting, with keto, etc. So I want to be gone. I want it gone. I want 2021 to be the year, my last year of being a diabetic. I don't want to wear a continuous glucose monitor anymore. I don't want to have to check my blood sugar every single day and worry about what I'm eating when I'm not eating. I want that to be something that is completely gone and out of my life. And here comes my cat. We'll see what happens. So that's really why I'm doing this, because I know I don't want to be a diabetic. And as I mentioned in my last video, high glucose is a symptom of the problem. And the issue is doctors want to treat the high glucose, but we don't treat the real issue. The root issue is insulin resistance. My body doesn't use its own insulin efficiently, which is different from a type 1 diabetic. And that's why I said if you're type 1, you probably don't want to fast because you have to have insulin to live. I do not. My body produces insulin. We just don't use it efficiently. And so hyperinsulinemia, I think is what it's called, is the issue at hand for me and what I need to treat. It's also why I gained back 30 pounds of water weight in that first week I refed. So I ended up with what's called refeeding edema. And the problem was I'm dealing with high insulin levels, as I mentioned, and taking in carbs after not having any food. And it was cauliflower. Let's be real. Cauliflower and pickles is what I had that first few days. It really bumped me up and caused my body to retain water. And I still haven't managed to get that off. I got most of it off, especially my feet, but I'm still retaining that edema. So my goal after the 40 days is to make sure that I refeed properly and that I don't end up with refeeding edema. So that, and I posted about that. There's an article from Dr. Fong on Diet Doctor. If I can find it again, I will link it down below, that talked about refeeding syndrome, which is a really serious, can cause serious injury, can cause death in some people. I think mostly for that, it's like people who are either anorexic or someone like was a prisoner of war, or someone who was starved for a lot of the people in the concentration camps, like in World War II. A lot of them suffered from refeeding syndrome because once they finally got food, it was just a lot. So that's really my why, is because I no longer want to be a diabetic, and I don't want my body to have an insulin response. So when I say that, when you take in anything that has calories in it, your body will have an insulin response. Not so much with fat, but definitely with carbohydrates and protein. And I have to stop the insulin production to stop the high glucose. I am not an expert at this. I will try to remember to link Dr. Eckberg's video that really explains insulin resistance and why you don't want to take insulin, and some of the other popular drugs and what they actually really do to the body. So, and if I forget, someone please remind me or link them in the comments. But I will do my best to remember that. So that's number one. You have to have a why. Why do you even want to fast? I know you're going to think this is hokey, some kumbaya shit, but fasting is like 85% mental and 15% physical, because you don't realize how much you're inundated with food throughout the day until you're fasting. Let's say you're driving to work, you pass a Burger King, a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, a Taco Bueno, or Taco Casa, or Taco Bell. Then you get to work, and on your computer there's an advertisement for something else, and then you're watching TV and they're eating, or there's a food commercial, or you're reading a book and they're talking about eating breakfast or having these kind of pancakes, and you're just inundated with food all day long. There's ads on Facebook. People are posting what they're eating on Facebook. People are posting what they're eating on Instagram. You're following Instagram accounts and you're seeing what they're eating, and you're like, I cannot do this anymore. It is you have to be in the right headspace to fast. And that's why I am fasting on Monday rather than, what date was I going to fast? It was like the 1st of February. Let me look. I was going to start fasting on the 8th, and I'm not fasting until the 22nd, because when I woke up on the 8th, I realized that I had gained almost all my weight back that I had lost in January. I gained 30 pounds back, and it's water. It was edema. We've talked about that. My blood sugars were still elevated. So it was really, really hard for me that day. And I knew that if I started to fast, I was going to binge, and I don't want to do that. That's a behavior that I don't want to ever fall back on. So it really is about being mental. So you have to have your why. You have to be, this isn't something that you can do, I think, if you are struggling with depression. I encourage you to seek out help. It may help again, it's basically an elimination diet. So it could be something that you're eating that's helping exasperate, whatever that word is, your depression or your anxiety. So again, that's not for me to decide. That's up to you. But you really have to be in the headspace, and you have to have the willpower, especially if you have a partner or you have a family that you still have to cook for. I'm very, very lucky that my husband is willing to eat things out of the freezer. So I got this burn. We talked about this before. I don't even know if you guys can still see it. It's just about healed. I made 18 quarts of soup that day. I made 12 full dinners that included mashed potatoes, green beans, steak or ribs, I think. And then I was making baked potato soup and Italian wedding soup and cheeseburger soup, and there were carbs all around me. I was starting to refeed. So it can be, and then like smelling what he's reheating is just like, oh my gosh. So it can be really, really hard, but it's more mentally for the most part. And that was a question someone said, asked me in my last video, how do you get over the psychological hunger? Sometimes I have to just not read, or I have to take a nap, or, I have to stay really, really busy in order to get me through the day, because literally food is everywhere. So you really have to have the willpower, but that goes back to your why. If you keep your eye on your why, keep your eye on the prize, then it will help you. If you need to, sign up with a coach. I'm actually going to sign up for Dr. Mindy's program. I'm going to do a couple of months of it. She offers month to month, or you can do a yearly thing with her. I don't feel like I need a cheerleader or a coach in that way. You guys are my cheerleaders, but I feel like I need someone who I can rely on, like when I'm refeeding, or to explain some of my body, like why isn't my blood sugar coming down, and why, those kinds of things. She also has when should you end a fast? And so I know for me that I need to keep my ketones under 7. And if my blood sugar gets down in the 50s, which probably won't happen, but if it does, then that's when I know I'll break a fast. So, you have to be mentally prepared, because fasting is hard work. I mean, giving up food, especially when, not so much right now because we're in, COVID, but food is such a social thing for us. Like birthdays and anything is like, oh, hey, come over and watch the game. Let's have some snacks. Like there's food everywhere, and you really have to be mentally prepared. So I think you really have to have a why to start fasting. Another thing that has helped me be successful is I worked my way to fasting. It wasn't like I was eating the standard American diet, and I had, McDonald's or Burger King or like a baked potato or something, and then I started fasting. I was actually on 1 meal a day, and I moved from 1 meal a day let's start over. If you are someone who is not currently low carb, if you're not currently low carb, paleo, keto, Whole30, something like that, that's where you need to start. Because if you don't, you will experience the keto flu. It will happen. You will feel like death, and then you won't want to continue. So what I suggest, again, I'm not a medical doctor. This isn't me telling you how to fast, but if you are someone who is looking to fast and you are not currently low carb, that's where you got to start. I would start with a ketogenic way of eating. I would do keto probably 3, maybe 4 weeks, and then start intermittent fasting. And then once you've done 16-8, maybe move down to 24, and you 2 meals a day, and then you move to 1 meal a day, and then you can start long-term fasting. And that's exactly what I did. I had done strict keto for I think 90 days, and then I moved to 1 meal a day, because once you're fat adapted, once you're in ketosis for a while, you're just not hungry. And that's what helped me in my 21-day fast. I'll talk about that in just a second. But you want to be working towards that. Some of you could be able to go cold turkey. I know there are people out there who just have that type of willpower, but if you're someone who don't think you do, or you don't think that you could do this, it's a progression. Like, make that progression. Like I said, my very first fast, I set it for 72 hours, and I ended up doing I think it was 113 hours. And the only reason why I did that is because on day 70 or hour 72, I looked at my husband, I was like, I'm not hungry. So I think I'm just gonna keep going. We'll just see what happens. So I did that for 2 weeks. Week 3, oh no, I did 60 hours, because I was like, okay, I'm hungry. It was all mental. my head just wasn't in the game. Same way for the next week. And then after that is when I did my first 7-day fast. And the reason why I did a 7-day fast is because I was having issues with my blood sugar. And at the time, I didn't realize the Humira I was taking was causing this increase in blood sugar. It's helping the inflammation, which also increases blood sugar, but it was also increasing my blood sugar. So I moved to 7 days because I'm like, okay, clearly that wasn't long enough to get because I'm like, I'd listened to Dr. Boz. She's not my favorite, but I had listened to a few of her videos, and she said, if you don't get this ratio, if you don't get the Boz ratio, then just keep going. So I was like, okay, we're just going to keep going. So I did the 7-day. A couple of days later, my blood sugars were back in the 300s. And then in December, during my 15-day fast, that's when I realized that the Humira was causing the issue. I woke up in the morning. I don't even remember what day it was. It had to be like day 10, maybe even 11. My blood sugar was 103. I took my Humira. 15 minutes later, I was in the 200s, and I stayed consistently high for a little bit. So that's kind of why I had an issue in that fast. And in that fast, I was ready to eat by day 11. I was like, I can't do this. And I barely made it to Christmas Day. I stayed very low carb, keto, basically carnivore, except for 3 different days. Our anniversary, I had some potatoes. I didn't have a lot, but I did have some. And then the couple of days before I fasted, I had Chinese food. And then I started my fast. So I started my fast on January 9th, 2021. And I talked about in my results video, how much weight I lost and everything else. So if you want to hear all that, it's there. But when I started this fast, I wasn't hungry. I think out of 21 days, I may have had 2 days where I've experienced hunger. And that was because I'm fat adapted, which means my body had moved from burning glucose for fuel to burning ketones. And once you get there, the bigger you are, and I think supposedly the bigger you are, the more your body will eat its own body fat and you'll stay satiated. And that's really what happened to me. And I actually had an issue, was that the 15-day fast or the 21-day fast? Like feeling like I was getting in enough water because you're not hungry, you're not really thirsty. I did have some days where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty, but that also was coordinating with the higher glucose levels. When I started that fast, my glucose was in the 340s, and that was no surprise because I had had Chinese food. The issue was I had stopped taking the Humira because it was causing blood sugar issues, but I wasn't taking anything to deal with the inflammation. And even though I was basically eating nothing, I was on an anti-inflammatory diet, I still was dealing with a ton of inflammation. Of course, it actually doubled from November. So I wasn't really experiencing the issues of the inflammation because of my diet, but my body was still experiencing the issues of not having that RA in control. So that gets us to now. Like I said, I was going to try to start fasting on the 8th. That was the day I was going to start my Enumbrel. And I didn't want there to be any question as to what was causing blood sugar issues when I started that medication. And I woke up that morning and I just couldn't do it. I knew if I fasted, I would send myself into a binge, and I've managed to avoid that since the first fast. So I'm trying to keeping my eye on my why. Why am I doing this? I set a goal for myself for 2021 to not have anything that is a quote unquote bad carb for me. So that's pasta, grain, rice, sugar, any of the bad foods that you shouldn't be eating anyway. But let's all face it, sometimes we go off plan, we get back on the wagon. My goal is not to have that this year. So it was last night. I don't know what we were doing. What did Rob have that he was going to offer me a bite? I don't remember. He said, here, do you want a bite? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, whoa, wait, nope. That has something I'm trying not to eat. So my goal for 2021 is to not have anything that is toxic or detrimental to my health. And for me right now, that is simple carbohydrates. So you need to know why. I think you need to start low carb if you're not already low carb, work your way to 1 meal a day, and then long-term fasting. I would start with 3 days. You could even do alternative day fasting. That's something that I've considered. I was not going to do another long-term fast. I mentioned in that video, I thought I would long-term fast maybe once a quarter just to kind of get the autophagy and clean out the pipe, so to speak. But I honestly feel that what's best for me right now is to get the inflammation under control. I've had 2 doses of Enbrel, so that's helping. And number 2 is just eliminate anything that could be inflammatory and also stop giving my body an opportunity to have an insulin response and to get back into a deep level of ketosis. I'm currently not. I think I'm hovering around 1.1. So still technically in ketosis, but not necessarily in as deep ketosis, as nutritional ketosis as I was. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Like I said, if my ketones get high, like 7, then I'll break the fast. If my blood sugar gets down to 50, I'll break the fast. I am going to get coaching this time to help me, especially with the refeeding. Hopefully that will be a little bit more successful. I am shooting for 40 days, but my goal is to get my blood sugar numbers to where they're in the low 100s for at least 7 days. I feel like if I get to that point and the inflammation is under control, the myasthenia, I'm not in a flare with that, I honestly feel like that will be where I see success. With all that being said, I have made the decision to go the first 10 days without any numbers. I'm a numbers person. I honestly regret getting my Dexcom, the CGM, because it's instantaneous. I can pull up my phone. I can pull up the app. $2.97. I don't know if you guys can see that. The only thing I've had today is bulletproof coffee with 2 stevias. But I can see this and I can see like every single minute of the day, and it's just too much. It's too much. This makes me, it infuriates me. It makes me angry. It makes me sad. It makes me feel defeated because it feels like all the hard work I've done is basically down the toilet. There hasn't been anything I've eaten since I've stopped my last fast that should cause this rise in numbers. I mean, you guys have seen what I've eaten. Cauliflower. Yesterday I had eggs. What did I have for dinner last night? I made olive cheese bread, which is basically olives and mozzarella cheese and an egg. So there hasn't been anything that I've actually put in my mouth that should be causing these numbers. So it makes me angry. And then there's my ketones. My ketones are at 1. Again, there's really nothing that I've eaten over the past 2 weeks that should have caused a drop in ketones like that. I haven't had anything artificial that I can think of. Yeah, no, there's absolutely nothing that I can think of that may have knocked me out of, that far in ketosis. And it may just be I was eating and that's what happened. And then as far as the weight, I'm still holding on to a lot of that water weight I regained with the refeeding edema. I mean, it's only been in 2 weeks now? So if I'm going to do this for at least 40 days, again, it's all about being in the right mental headspace for me, and I literally cannot afford to focus on the numbers that first week. 10 days. I'm giving myself 10 days. It's the first quarter of the fast. I think by day 10, since my numbers aren't in the high 300s, I think by day 10, if everything works out the way it's supposed to, it'll be where I'm finally starting to be in the 100s consistently. I don't want to go further than day 10 for the ketones or for the blood sugars, because I know by Wednesday next week I'll be at least at 3, hopefully with the ketones. And again, I don't want to go past 7. So that's my plan. I honestly don't know how I feel about this fast. I think I'm ready for a fast to be successful. I am definitely ready to, talk to you guys and be like, hey, this is the third day that my number has been in the low 100s. Like, I'm ready for that. I'm not even, like, I have a feeling I'll be under 300 pounds by then. But even that is like, yeah, cool. Okay, I'll lose the weight. But for me, it's like, I just want my blood sugars to be lower. I want to be able to have my A1C just at 7. Let's just get to 7 by May, right? Because April, May, it'll be June. I'll have my A1C drawn on the 23rd of March, and then he'll do it again in June. So hopefully by June, I'll be at 6, or maybe I'll be even close to 5. And maybe again by December, I can say that I'm someone who reversed my diabetes. What I love about Dr. Mindy is she talks about a fasting lifestyle. And that's definitely something that I want to implement in my life. I mentioned that in my past videos. I want to either do alternative day fasting or 1 meal a day, or, do 72 hours a week, right? I'm off 3 or eat 4, or I'm off 4 and eat 3. Like, I'm going to continue fasting. It's something that I feel like really works for me. It helps with my symptoms of my RA. It makes my symptoms of my myasthenia worse. So it is a double-edged sword, so to speak, but I have to feel like the good outweighs the bad. I got a comment on Instagram yesterday. Let me read it so I know exactly what it says. But it's, and I don't think it was someone who was being facetious, but I can understand, I can understand where the comment was coming from. It said, so I get that your goal in doing long-term fasts is to get your blood sugar levels down. What is working but not enough, right? I think your long-term goal behind that is to get off insulin completely. So are you on insulin right now, or is there a number you have to reach before you can get off? I'm really impressed how you can do such long fasts, but if this is not working the way you anticipate, why continue? So as I've mentioned, there are other things at play. I haven't had insulin since, I think I took some the 1st of January, and I took it just to help counteract the effects of the lo mein. I haven't had a nightly insulin dose since August or September. And it was working. But the issue is, again, there are other things at play. We had a medication at play, and that's the second time it's happened, and you can hear me lament about that in the other video. Then I had the inflammation at play. And what I think a lot of people don't understand is literally anything can affect your blood sugar levels. Stress can affect your blood sugar levels. Cortisol can affect your blood sugar levels. An infection, a headache, a runny nose, the weather. Like, there's so many other things than what you put in your mouth that can affect your blood sugar. So it's really like, I have to control what I can control. And the only thing I can control in all of this is what I put in my mouth. What I can control is helping to get the insulin level down in my body. What I can control, is trying to make sure that my body is getting the autophagy. It's healing itself through fasting, those kinds of things. So it's not like the last fast was a failure. It wasn't a failure at all. Did I get the results I wanted? No. But I got into a deep level of ketosis. I had some non-scale victories. I lost 52 pounds. Like, there were some victories in that. And did my blood sugars come down? Yeah, they came down. Did they come down as low as I wanted them to? No, they didn't. So I wouldn't call those failures. They're just, I wasn't getting exactly what I wanted. And that's on me. I could have had, I may have unrealistic expectations about all of this. 100% that could be what's happening, right? So I don't feel like those fasts were a failure. And I don't think this 40-day fast will be a failure. I think, there's so many other things at play that I have to be okay with getting the numbers that I get and know that my body is doing what it can do to be successful. So yeah. So I hope that answered all your questions. Again, I'm starting Monday, the 22nd. I'm going to fast at least 40 days. I may continue depending on what's going on. I am seeking out coaching this time, and I will leave all the information to that in the description box down below, along to some of the videos I've watched. Again, not a medical professional. Seek out help. Make sure you talk to your doctor before you start this. If you're someone who already suffers from, issues if you're not eating. I don't think fasting is the smart choice, but again, I'm not your doctor. You have to decide that for you. I will be documenting this fast just like I did the last one with daily videos. They keep me accountable, number one, but they also, it's like validation for your work, right? We all want to be recognized or validated for our jobs or whatever. So I can, I self-congratulate, like I have intrinsic motivation, but to have you guys as well is really, really helpful, especially when you guys are like, hey, I'm doing this with you. We're really rocking it. Like, it's just been, I'm just enjoying it. I've been going live on Instagram, putting on makeup. I know people don't like it when I do that, but it's just about having a conversation and having something to do with my hands. You know what I mean? Kind of multitasking. But I just enjoy getting to talk to you. I enjoy, talking to you guys in the comments. And a lot of people say, well, you can't take criticism and you can't do that. I can take constructive criticism, absolutely. What I cannot tolerate is people who are ableistic, meaning they leave comments that are basically based in ableism, and that's just where you, an able-bodied person, not everybody can do that. That's why I always got so upset when people would shame me or shame other people for getting fast food. Is fast food the best choice? No. But there are some people who literally cannot cook for themselves. And I've mentioned many times, there are days where it's like, okay, can I take a shower today? And like today, I took a shower. I had enough energy to put on a face of makeup. I had enough energy to film this, this video. But tomorrow, I probably won't do much of anything because I will be so worn out from everything that I've done today that I'll need to regroup. So, as long as you're not being ableistic and as long as you're, like the last comment was about my hair. So I don't brush my hair. Like, there are other important things I need to do. Should I brush my hair or should I brush my teeth? Like, it's, and that's the issue with those of us who are considered spoonies, where we have an invisible illness and it's chronic, but people don't see it. I look healthy. I'm not necessarily in a wheelchair if you see me out and about, but I'm dealing with a lot of things internally. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So leave your comments. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Again, if I forget anything that I've mentioned in this video, please remind me. I will do my best to rectify that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I love you. Thank you so much for cheering me on. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. That was a lot of talking today.